Before we begin, we do have to have a moment of silence here for all the armchair GMs listening. What a bad 24 hours it's really been. 48 hours by the time this comes out that it's been. Rest in peace, Cap Friendly. What a run it
Dude,
was.
the Capitals suck, man. I love cap friendly. I can't believe this is happening. Like, are you serious? It's such a great tool for fans to use. It's such a great like if you want to
The
be
NHL
an
teams use
archer,
it.
yeah. And a lot of NHL teams use it, which I guess I could see what as to why the Capitals may have wanted it, but it sucks. It really sucks because there's
It's
some funny ones out there. When you go to armchair GM mode, there's some funny ones to read through, but it kept me abreast with all the latest NHL contracts, or if I ever had a question, it's best
so
database out
simple,
there.
so streamlined. Like, it's just such a good tool. I mean, like when you have National Hockey League teams using it themselves instead of taking the resources to build their own, which some teams do, it just goes to show how much of a staple it's been for so long. I mean, I don't even remember when it was established, but I think it precedes like my diehard hockey fandom for as long as I can remember. It's like go to Cap Friendly, you can look at contracts, or if you want to have some fun, you throw an armchair GM out there.
Yeah, that dude must have gotten paid from all the rumors flying around, you know, with with it as being as, in demand as it was, I guess, with all the other NHL teams going after it, you can only imagine what kind of deal that guy must have gotten from the Capitals
Hey,
for him
good
to
for
be like,
him, and
okay,
good for him. That's an unfathomable amount of time spent keeping that website updated and as high, just as high output as it's been, and finally get compensated for it. I'm not gonna disrespect him or criticize him for chasing the bag. Good for you. Good for you. It's more surprising a team didn't do this before.
but on the other side of it, don't you think of it as something like that's your baby? Like that's like this platform for us. It's like eventually, let's say it got so big, you ended up selling it off. It's like, yeah, you made some money off of it, but I'm sure he was making some sort of money off of it because there were ads on the
Well,
site.
yeah,
There
the
were a lot
pop
of
up
ads on the
ads were
site.
like, yeah, there were
So
definitely a lot of pop up ads.
I'm sure he was making some sort of money off the site before, going and selling it, but the Capitals suck, man.
Yeah, it's a big loss for hockey fans everywhere. It's such a easy tool to really engross yourself with, and you learn so much. You learn about things even you didn't even know existed in hockey, loopholes in contracts, things like that. So
Crazy bonuses. The Kyle
let's
Poso 500K bonus, Stanley Cup winner.
so get your remaining days. I mean, what it shuts down? What July 5th? They said. I think that's when the sale completes.
What are some good replacement sites? I haven't really looked, so
Puckpedia is definitely the one everybody's looking to right now. I guess kind of Sport Track, but Puckpedia is like the other one. They were the I don't know what's a good comparison here. They're like the knockoff. Not, I don't want to call it a knockoff site, but they were the little brother. But
okay.
the big brother just moved
It's
out of the
like
house. They got some big shoes to fill.
Adidas and Puma, I guess. One's a little bit smaller. But so yeah, Spot Track I really think of as more of like an NFL database. I don't really associate Spot Track with hockey that much.
No, but they obviously they do. Spot Track does have they do have a hold in hockey, so it'll be interesting. I'm sure you're also going to see a ton of new sites pop up. You've already seen people floating the idea out there, like, oh, what if I made a cap friendly copy? Which, yeah, if you like I said, it just goes to show how much of a loss this is. That people are like, oh, should I just make the same thing again? It's like
I
Blue
could
Sky.
Oh yeah, I could see somebody definitely rebooting it maybe with just a different like UI, It might look a little bit different, but it'll definitely operate probably the same way. Um, I'd welcome something like that. I mean, I mean, there's, I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. It gets a little slow at the office sometimes, and you just decide to go on uh cat friendly armchair GM just to see what's going on, who's throwing what out there, what's going on. But that's a tough loss. We got a month left, not even.
Enjoy these remaining days, kept friendly. It's been real. You were a great tool. It was a great run. We'll miss you.
It will now be called Capitals friendly.
On that note, welcome back to another episode of the Sabre Roundtable. My name is Jonah.
I'm Christian and no JP.
And as always, we'll be talking to you about all things Buffalo Sabres hockey and even a little bit of the wider NHL. For today, we're going to be previewing some of the free agents, the forward free agents that are going to be available to the Sabres in the upcoming free agency frenzy on July 1st. We'll also be talking a little bit more about the Sabres' 11th overall draft pick, which talk has rapidly picked up in favor of the Sabres possibly dealing that pick, talking about a few hires that the Sabres finalized within the last week, and we'll jump a little bit about the NHL. The Stanley Cup is in full swing. Game 2 is going on currently. Edmonton's up 1-0, and we'll talk about some other topics in the league.
Let's get right into it.
So, we've talked a lot about the offseason already. We know what's coming. This has to be the offseason of Adam's life. There's a lot riding on this season, and we've gotten a lot of official, not official implications of what happens next offseason if next season goes badly. Now you could have always theorized, like, yes, if they miss the playoffs next year again, Adam's job, is it on the line? Are people getting fired? You'd say yeah. Some people would say yes. Some people would say no. You knew it'd get ugly, and that's the sentiment that's been repeated. But now you have Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick talking about if next season goes bad, it spells the end of the Kevin Adams era, which I think I really would have thought that, given that Adams was Terry Pegula's guy supposedly, and he's done a good job building up a good wealth of resources, I thought that maybe they would stick by him. But look, they're talking about this a year in advance. If next season goes poorly, if they miss the playoffs again, and it's not, barring just a blockade or a avalanche of injuries that torpedo their season, if they miss fair and square, Adams is done. And who knows what happens with Lindy, with the rest of the organization. It's a doomsday scenario. Let's put it that way.
Man, I'm already like it last offseason going into it, so much optimism. Now it's nerves. Even if they make big splashes in free agency, it's just, oh my God. I don't know what they're gonna do if we go through another like off season, or we go through another season and it's another disappointment. Like, not only are you talking about firing your GM, you're also talking about firing the coach that you just brought back, who also has been with this organization over every single decade of its existence. You'd be possibly burning a bridge with another alumni, at least in the short term. And then what happens with the fan base? We've already had enough.
And I'll say
this.
this, like, if it's another disaster of this, or even if it doesn't even have to be a disaster, because the Sabres season last year, disaster by the expectations going in. Was it a disaster overall? No, they were a 500 hockey team. It was just incredibly frustrating. But if it's mentally a disaster like last year was, I do sort of wonder, like, how much does Terry Pegula continue to, I guess, bear the weight of this franchise? Like, is another disaster season enough to sell?
Who is he selling to? Like, there's rumors. Is there anyone out there who's buying this team right now?
I remember seeing something. There was some young, I don't know if he was a I don't know if he was a crypto guy. He was like he was a young Sabres fan. I remember people were like pointing to tweets, like he was like criticizing McDermott and the Bills, like just like any other fan that I don't know, maybe he would be interested.
Only he has
I
billions
don't
of
know.
dollars in
You hear
crypto.
and you hear all sorts of things. I remember hearing a little bit ago that Wegmans would maybe be interested in buying the Sabres. That's true, and I'm not discounting the person that told me that because I don't feel like they're totally like they're not somebody I would distrust. It's just it's kind of a ridiculous rumor.
We can go public. We could become a publicly owned franchise like the Green Bay Packers. The fans could take it into their own hands.
Oh my
We could
God.
have open town
Could you
halls. We
imagine
could.
putting all the brains,
Oh,
just old heads, people on Sabres Twitter, just put them all into one room and try to figure this out?
dude, that would be the biggest disaster of all time. Like even when we were at the Insights, like when was this?
I think it was like right after the trade deadline, so like
Right.
what,
So a
early
few months
March?
ago,
Yeah.
like even after that, just
Hopefully
there's not
Wednesday,
even.
hopefully this Wednesday goes a lot better. I am looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, we got this Wednesday too.
Yeah. Hopefully it goes a bit better than last time. But
My hopes aren't high for that.
but there is the expectations. They're clear. Okay, this is we joked about it in our Q&A episode because somebody asked, what if next season goes south? And it's like I don't want to think about that. It's
I don't know what's gonna happen if it
like
goes south, man.
the Sabres have to be all in. Like making the playoffs next year, it cannot be understated how important it is to just get there. Just get there. Now, I want to get there comfortably and possibly I want to do damage. I feel like this core is good enough. Like this isn't the Leafs back in 2016 where Matthews, Marner, Nylander, they're all rookies and you never thought you'd be there. Look, Tage is going to be 27. Alex Tuck is getting close to 30. Dylan Cousins is in his, I don't even know, fourth season now.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, they've been Rasmus Dahlin is heading into his seventh season.
Seventh.
Like, it's been a long time for a lot of these guys. So you want to build this team good enough to do more than just get swept by a division winner.
You want to be the division winner.
You do. So how are we going to get there? Well, let's get into the free agent class because, look, free agency. It hasn't been Kevyn Adams' strong point, if we're being honest here.
Hasn't been the Sabres' strong point as a franchise either.
I would urge Kevyn Adams to stay away, but at the same time, there are some good and intriguing options on this list, and I think a few of them could realistically be an option and also provide value that's that could be tangible for the team next season. So I think we should start at the top, and I think we should start with our guy, just to bring it up, Sam Reinhart.
Yeah, saw that one coming.
57 goals this season. Isn't that insane? 57. I know a ton of them are on the power play, but 57 goals.
Bridge deal king.
And what a time to do it, heading into your big payday offseason.
He needs to get paid. He's been through the ringer with contracts. He's been shafted by this organization and its previous regimes. He deserves a big payday. And you know what? I'm just saying, you know what? Even if I'm saying like Kevyn Adams, you throw a bag at him. Like, could it happen? Probably not. But I would love him back on this team. Are you going to tell me now that Brandon Montour is going to come back too, Jonah?
No, I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he was good for like 2 months, and then Ralph Kruger got hired. And we talk about Rasmus Dahlin and Jeff Skinner. I think Brandon Montour might have gotten the worst of Kruger's system. Back to Reinhart. I bring him up for 2 reasons. And look, it's not going to happen. He's not going to come here. I actually think he's going to stay in Florida because I think he'd be crazy not to. If he wants to go home to Vancouver, okay. That's something that's been pegged for years. I remember over and over when the Sabres kept finishing in the basement of the league, every Vancouver fan was trying to mock a trade to get him over there. If he wants to go home, good for him. But Florida's the best place for him, and you've seen that. But if you were to hit the open market, Reinhart's a guy, I've said this before. He's the exact type of player they need. He is. Like Sam Reinhart, the blueprint. That is what the Sabres need this offseason. And I don't mean the 57 goal Sam Reinhart. No, I'm talking about, Sam Reinhart that averages out to the mean, who's like around point per game. Great two-way player. Obviously he finished second in first place Selke voting this year. And a guy who can play in the top. He can play anywhere in the lineup, but that includes on the top line and being a top line player. And I also bring it up. Look, he didn't leave the Sabres on bad terms. We all know the infamous phone call that he gave Kevin Adams. I think it was on draft day, because that's when the trade was finalized, or day 2 of the draft. I think it was.
It was the end of day 1, going into day 2. I think.
Mm-hmm. So I bring it up for those reasons. Now, those are the only reasons. I'm just saying, if it were to happen in some fantasy world, there'd be legitimate reasons. He's a player they need. They can theoretically throw the cash at him, and he left on good terms. Now, Evolving Hockey projects that his next contract is going to be a 7 by 10.8.
Man. Well, the cap did just go up, so I mean, if you want to put it into old cap terms, that's probably like a 7 by 10.
Not to mention his most direct comparable is by far William Nylander, and Nylander got what, 7? Did he get 11 and a half? It was in the 11s.
I know he got at least 11.
So it's a pretty good comparable, and I don't know. If he were to stay in Florida, I guess he could take a little bit of a discount.
You think you'd give him a discount?
I think he'd give Florida a discount.
I think he's taken enough discounts throughout his career.
That is true. He deserves his pay. He deserves his payday.
That's what I'm saying. I think he deserves his payday. I wouldn't be giving anyone any favors at this point. I mean, even if, like, let's say Kevin Adams threw 11 million at him, that might not even be like, it might just on the terms of like, no, I don't want to go back because it didn't work out last time, and I know it's a new regime, but those wounds don't heal overnight, even over the course of a few years. I'd say 11.
He had to get out.
Yeah, I'd say 11 million gets him to stay in Florida, but I don't think he's taking any discounts.
No, I think he still ends up. He doesn't take less than, I don't know, 8.5.
No, he doesn't take less than 9.5.
I wouldn't if I were him.
No.
So that's Sam Reinhart, and like I said, probably not going to happen, but it's fun to bring up. Patrick Kane. Now, this is a player that, obviously, going back to this past... Man, we had to have been talking about this time last year, because we all saw the forecast. He was gonna get that surgery, and someone was gonna have to give him that contract when he got back. And obviously we were opposed to that. And he made us eat our words. He had a great season with the Detroit Red Wings. He was right around point per game. He scored over 20 goals in, I think 50 games. He was great. He was great. And I'm happy to see him playing well. He is, he's a bona fide Hall of Famer. You want to see that guy play well into his late 30s. 20 goals, 27 assists for 47 points in 50 games.
It's fantastic for his age.
So now he heads into this offseason. And it's looking like it could go either way with him in Detroit, but I would say I think he hits the market because now he's looking for term. And he was looking for that during the fall, and the Sabres didn't want to go there. And no other team certainly wanted to go there. Now he's looking for term.
He's got that leverage now.
Now he's proven he can come back. No team was going to give him more than a year. It just wasn't going to happen.
Dude,
The
I'm so torn on him because it's like this happens all the time, I feel like, with this organization. It's like they have this guy, he's been good, and then I feel like as soon as you sign him and pay him, he's just gonna fall off a cliff. He's gonna hit the aging curve, and they're gonna have to overpay for him. He's anyone out there thinking he's taking a hometown discount, get that out of your head right now because he is not taking a hometown discount. If they pay him like 2 years, $5 million, like, and he falls off a cliff, I'm gonna be so upset because
I would
like I
sign up
want him to be so good with this team
a
if he comes here.
a 2x5. Like, I'm doing that. Evolving Hockey has him on the 2 years. They have him at 5.2.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I would do two by five, but at the same time, it's like he's just not. I'm sticking to this. He's just not gonna give Buffalo any favors. It's been the
No,
opposite. He's been using them as leverage since the beginning. And I'm not saying he doesn't want to. I'm not saying there isn't a scenario where he could end up playing here, but the Sabres have to give him everything he wants, and that's term. That's a high cap hit, and especially now, the Sabres are getting close. They're getting close to cap hell, and I'm not. They're still fine, but I'm saying
no, Jonah, we're
no.
not
I'm
close to
saying
cap
look.
hell.
I'm saying cap hell. I should have said just cap ceiling. They're getting close to the cap ceiling if they want to have the offseason that they want. If they add a top six, and I tweeted about this today, if they add a top six forward and a third line center and give Luukkonen the deal he wants and re-sign Peyton Krebs, they have like I think 10 to 8 million to work with, or 8 to 10 million to work with to add another defenseman, and I didn't even add another bottom six forward. So you can't just carelessly spend money. If Kane gets that third year, Evolving Hockey has him getting $6.9 million. Like, no, it's not happening. You can't do that. And you can't do that for 2 years. If Kane wants to sign for below 5.5, okay, let's do that. I can work with that. Anything more, and I'm just like, dude, like, I don't think you're going to take this with any other team. Like, if the Toronto Maple Leafs offered you 5.5, you're probably going and signing with them. But with us, it's different. So I'm not saying the Sabres should steer clear of him, because I also think, look, their power play needs a big revamp. And they've been searching for someone for that right wall for so long, and he would provide that. But it's buyer beware with him, because it would just be the Sabres' luck that as soon as you get him, his hip caves in.
Yeah, it still is just such a huge wild card, but you gotta admit it'd be electric for him to play in the blue and gold.
It would be cool
Like
for a lot of people.
you're putting butts in the seats. But remember what we talked about last year? We were like, if Patrick Kane signs with the Buffalo Sabres, it'll be cool for one game, one home game, and then we'll all realize that he can't play hockey anymore. And who would have guessed it? He made us eat our words last year. So now it's more or less like it'd be cool to see him play here because it seems like he's been having
I
a
was
good
always
run
a fan.
as of late.
I never doubted him.
I always believed in him. Never a doubt. But yeah, that would be just our luck as it is with like it just reminds me of like the Taylor Hall thing, but also that team was bad. They had a terrible coach. Like terrible doesn't do that word justice. And I don't know, the Eric Stahl thing also worries me. I mean, Patrick Kane's a better player than Eric Stahl, but still they were like roughly the same age.
Well,
And Eric Stahl had a good year and he fell off. It's just there's a lot of cautiousness with this fan base, but this organization can't be cautious this offseason because that's what's going to cost them.
I'll throw another name into this sort of group. Steven Stamkos, kind of another dream-ish scenario. Now, his cap hit is projected to be a lot higher. A 2-year deal has him coming in at 7.3. A 3-year deal, which is his most likely, has him at 8.4. That's expensive.
Yeah.
But I've talked a little bit about it on here. Stamkos, he's still a fantastic power play contributor. B, he would be such a culture shock. Like, imagine you're Steven Stamkos. You go from Tampa Bay, like the cream of the crop for NHL organizations for the past decade, and then you come here. And I'm not saying this is, I'm not saying, this isn't the 2018 Sabres where I think Steven Stamkos would faint on the spot the moment he entered the locker room. But there would be some things I'm sure he would like to change.
Really? What? What do you think?
I won't get into specifics.
I can't
Maybe
put my finger on it.
He'll add some Stanley Cup pictures in a few rooms. But he would be such a culture shock, and he's a Stanley Cup ring that you're bringing in that would legitimately provide value. Like, hey, it's great Bowen Byram has a Stanley Cup ring. It's great that Alex Tuch has been there. It's not the same as someone like Steven Stamkos. That would be...
No, not even close.
I think it would do so much for the dressing room if they somehow got him to come here. But it's also Stamkos, like, kind of like Reinhart. I can't imagine Tampa letting him walk. I think he would... he wants his fair payday because everybody else got their big contracts there. I still just think he's got to be a Lightning for life.
Yeah, I wouldn't see him going anywhere. We thought he was gonna jump ship in 2016, and they re-signed him for 8 years. And could you believe that was 8 years ago already?
God,
I remember that
crazy.
Instagram post, dude.
It's crazy seeing all the 2016 contracts. I mean, they're already over.
Yeah, all of them. They're all done. But it would be amazing to have him here too. Again, I think he's another guy who could definitely push the top six. He definitely play in the top six, but I think it could also make it better for like a night in, night out basis if you have a player rotating in and out of the top six, maybe if they're struggling a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess while we're talking about free agents and we kind of brought up the cap to go along with that, my opinion on Peyton Krebs is like if you really want to spend this offseason, I'm good with parting with him. I think he's replaceable. I think I understand like you're trying to make him work, and he was a part of the Eichel trade, and he still has some potential, but I think he's a replaceable guy by someone who's a UFA making $1.5 million at most.
Yeah, I don't love giving up on him now. I want to see him with Ruff first. But it's like at the same time, like if you need to trade Peyton Krebs to get a top player, like if you're talking, I don't know, like a Joel Eriksson, and like Minnesota needs a center, and you got to send him the other way, do it, sure. But if you're throwing him in for, I don't even know, if you're throwing him in a trade where you don't really feel like it's necessary, and you're just going to go into free agency and maybe look for a more expensive option, because I mean it came out today that guys like Steven Nason and Michael Amadio, William Carrier, like these are fourth line-ish players. They're going to get pretty decent paydays. Like $1.5 million for a good fourth line center might not be realistic, and in that scenario, I think I'd rather just keep Krebs. But if it's a must, it's a must. Here's an interesting one that I think I'm going to pair these two together actually. So Tyler Toffoli, this is someone who played under Lindy Ruff last year. 33 goals, 55 points across his time with the Devils and New Jersey. He's still a great player. Even at his age of 32, he's still playing top-notch hockey. He's still a top six forward. And I also think he's a player that, once again, you can throw short-term money at, because he's not going to be, it's not in the case of Sam Reinhart where he's looking for a 7 or 8 year deal. Tyler Toffoli is honestly starting to become a journeyman. I mean, how many teams has he bounced around the last few seasons? It's been quite a few.
I was just about to say, I keep thinking he's on the Kings. Anytime I see his name, like I associate him with the Kings. When you say he played under Lindy Ruff, I was just like, oh yeah, he's on the Devils now.
His next contract is projected to be 3 years, by $6.1 million. That's good value in and of itself. I think going 3 years hypothetically would be tough with how things are lining up with the Sabres. But if you want to get him at 2 and putting him at 2 million, he drops in the model to 5.4. I don't think he's going to do that with the Sabres. But if you wanted to bring it up, 2 years, if he needed $7 million for 2 years, he's a good player, and I think he's the type of guy you do that for. And there's also the connection with Ruff, playing well under him that I think could maybe make him want to buy in to a situation here in Buffalo. And the other name that I had was Jonathan Marchessault. Now, Vegas is in, as always, they're in some cap trouble. They have like $2 million going into this offseason. That Tomas Hertl Tomas Hertl trade is going to make things more difficult for them. And I don't think they've discussed an extension to this point. Jonathan Marchessault had 42 goals last year. 33 years old, and should he hit the open market, Evolving Hockey has him getting a 3-year deal at $6.8 million. So very similar to Toffoli, and they provide similar value. Now I prefer Toffoli, and I also think it almost kind of works out better. I prefer him, and he supposedly is going to cost less. But Marchessault's another guy, and I know a lot of people would get upset because he's an undersized forward, but hey, he's also got a Conn Smythe.
Yeah, he does. Can never have too many undersized forwards who have Conn Smythe trophies. I think the Tyler Toffoli thing would be a neat experiment if he was here for a couple of years, especially with Lindy Ruff being back for at least 2 years, and him having that success under him. I think he could slide right into the lineup, and Lindy would already have a good plan as to where to use him and when to use him. And if the price isn't astronomical, which it's not seeming like it's going to be, I think that's a safe option if the Sabres want to go in that direction. I don't think there's a ton of risk involved with that, like a Patrick Kane or maybe even a Steven Stamkos, because you'd have to pay him a lot. I think a Jonathan Marchessault, I think that's more along the lines of no, I was about to say he's more he could drive a line. He's not a complimentary piece. He could drive a line. So I'd probably have to side with you too. I'd probably prefer Toffoli, but I would 100% be on board with Jonathan Marchessault on the team too, even if you had to pay a little more. But
yeah, it's another guy who I think his cup ring matters. I mean, he's been an important part of that franchise for long enough now where he's been a core guy. I mean, we joke he's a misfit and we joke about how Florida let him go. Obviously, he's a stud. He's a stud player, and I do worry that he is. I think he's more prone to hitting a wall than Toffoli. Like Toffoli's impacts are still nuts, whereas I guess Marchessault's they're a bit weaker in comparison. But at the same time, he scored 42 goals last season. So those are two guys that I think on that same tier. Both right wing, both Toffoli's 32, Marchessault's 33. Kind of in that same group. So I want to move on to a name that I've always liked for some time, and I think he might finally be hitting the market. Jake DeBrusk. Someone who I thought was going to come back in the Taylor Hall trade initially. We got stuck with Anders Bjork. 27 years old, 19 goals, 40 points this season in 80 games. Always been a super steady guy in Boston's top six. Boston fans always had some problems. There were some long scoring droughts, but he's also someone that showed up in the playoffs on a fairly consistent basis, especially against Toronto. I think the fit is tough because from what we've heard, they're looking for a bona fide. I think they're looking for a big top six addition, like a big one. and their bottom six addition is going to be a third line center. But also that third line center could be a top six center. We don't know. I think their addition, they're looking bigger than DeBrusk and also smaller than him at the same time. I think he's in that sort of weird group with, I think you can look at guys like Jason Zucker, Teuvo Teravainen, maybe even Tyler Bertuzzi or Anthony Mantha. Like, there's some good options in that group. I think they're too small to be big additions, and
they're too big to be small additions.
Yeah, like they need. I think they're looking for a big addition, and they're looking for a defensively established one for their bottom six.
I've been a huge Jake DeBrusk fan for a while. Like, I mean, I don't like the Bruins, but I've wanted him on this team going back a number of years, probably going back to the Taylor Hall trade. Good at driving the net. He's good at getting those, cleanup goals, something this team desperately needs. I think it'd be a pretty good skill set to bring into the locker room. Yeah, if he were to be on the team, I don't think he'd slot into the top six. I think he'd be more of like a third line guy.
I think he'd be in like he'd like rotate
Yeah,
between the second line and third line. He's never. I don't think he's ever been more than. He's never been a top line guy in Boston, and the top line has been ridiculous for a long time. You've had Marchand on that left side. I mean, maybe he's played up at points. I don't know the Bruins that well. Maybe he has been on there on a fairly consistent basis, but he's a middle six forward. He's not going to play more probably than JJ Peterka. Maybe he can leapfrog Jeff Skinner, but I like the player. Really don't see the fit. Evolving Hockey also has him getting a 5-year deal at $5.8 million. That's kind of rich. That's a
little rich for my blood.
That's a lot of money for for a middle six guy. I think we would be remiss to mention that. Bring up Jake Gensel's name. Buyer beware. Number one, buyer beware. 29 years old, looking for a huge payday, probably in the 8s, 7 years. No thanks. And not here.
And
not going to happen here.
This team isn't equipped to handle another long-term contract. If we're going for someone, we're going for someone like a big name who wants, a few years, 2, 3 max. We could pay him big money, but this team cannot handle another long-term contract as of right now.
Yeah. No thanks. Let someone else make that mistake. Look, the way things are shaping up, if you look, like if Adams has the big offseason that we want him to have, and they get those big additions, Jeff Skinner's probably off the team next offseason. And the last thing you want is another Jeff Skinner. And I think, Gensel's still a great player, and Jeff Skinner has provided value on his contract at times. You don't want that. It's just, no thanks. Buyer beware.
Yeah, I hate to say, because I love Jeff Skinner. He's been a light in this organization over some of the really tough seasons. Obviously excluding the Ralph Kruger years where he was Ralph Kruger, but he was still a consistent 5v5 guy, but I'd hate to see him go. But unless he has like a tremendous year this year, I'm making peace with the fact that they're going to buy him out next offseason.
Also, someone else I think is also kind of buyer beware, Chandler Stevenson. 16 goals and 51 points, but I think those are sort of inflated by who he was playing with. Just looking at his general impacts, nothing special. And I think, given who he's played for, well, I shouldn't say nothing special. His defensive metrics were quite bad. But I think, given who he was playing for, and now he's got a Stanley Cup ring, he's probably going to be commanding some good money. Evolving Hockey has him at 4 years, getting $6 million. No thanks for someone who's probably going to be my third line center and is not exactly defensively capable anymore. Here's a name I'll throw at you. Sean Monahan. 29 years old, Can you guess how many points he had this season? He played 83 games.
I'm going to say he had 46 points.
He had 59 points. 26 goals, 33 assists. Started the season in Montreal, ended in Winnipeg. Probably going to hit the free agent market. I don't hate it as a third line option. It's just another guy. I mean, he had a great season and a contract year. It's looking like he's going to get over $5 million. I like Monahan. I also don't think he's anything special.
Seems like something that this organization has kind of been throwing around for a long time now. I feel like I've heard that name come up more times than not, along with like a Josh Anderson and who else? Who else has been like on this team? John Gibson. You feel like every other offseason they're talking about that.
I think Scott Lawton's climbing up the list. I've been hearing his name for like the past 6 months consistently.
No thanks. I'm good.
Well, we've transitioned to, I think we've talked a lot about the top names. And look, there's other good players in that list, but I think a lot of them fall into that group where they'd be too big of an addition to be a small addition, but also too small of an addition to be a big addition. Some of these guys, like I look at Vlad Tarasenko, Elias Lindholm is a name, buyer beware. Don't want to go near him unless he takes a massive pay cut. But I don't think he is. It came out today. He rejected a 7x7. A few months ago, he rejected like a 8x8.5 from Vancouver. Not the greatest work there.
I was just gonna say, what about a Matt Duchene?
I feel like Dallas is going to try to keep him. He thrived there. I also think looking at his contract, I feel like he's got to be expensive. He really built back up his value this season. But he's a player I like very much. 3 years, $7 million is the most likely deal.
How is Dallas going to keep him? They're already paying Tyler Seguin like $27 million a year. Like, how are they going to put Matt Duchene on the books now? And they got to pay Wyatt Johnston.
Oh man, Johnston's going to get paid.
Stankoven, I mean, that's a few years down the road, but if he's going to be around for a while, he's going to need to get a contract. So it's like, do you bridge Duchene until you have to pay Stankoven?
I feel like they got to bridge someone. They're probably going to bridge Harley. Lundqvist shouldn't take up that much cap. I don't know. They're not too bad. Looks like they're they have $16 million to work with. It's a decent amount of money.
Man, they got jobbed in that last game in Edmonton, man. I don't think we talked about that enough.
I don't think I've ever. Yeah, that's tough. I don't think I've ever seen a game like that.
God, like how many shots did they have? 36 to 10 or something.
And like when they were pouring it on in the third. I think the first two periods, Edmonton was doing a decent job. They got lucky in the third period to get out of that game. I did kind of feel bad for them. And the Oilers of all teams to sit on, kind of
to park the bus
and a clinching game. Who knew Stuart Skinner would be the hero?
Locking it down.
But back to the free agents, some of the names that kind of fit into that too small but too big at the same time additions, Vlad Tarasenko, Kevin Labanc, David Perron, Jason Zucker, Adam Henrique. I think the Sabres are looking bigger and smaller at the same time. But we can talk about some bottom six guys. And, the four big ones that I believe were brought up today, William Carrier, Michael Amadio, Dakota Joshua coming off, the playoffs of his career. And there was one more, I think Steven Nason, who has been in Carolina for the past years. Like, those are guys I was thinking about. And I think they're all going to get in the $3 million range. I mean, Evolving Hockey has William Carrier in like the ones, I think. That's not going to happen. He scored 16 goals in like 56 games last like 2 seasons ago. He's going to get a nice payday. And Dakota Joshua, we know the type of offseason that he had. Stefan Nason was on Carolina's first power play unit at points. I think the fourth line market is going to be kind of messed up this year. You're not going to, I don't know if you're going to find an easy deal. The one name, Yakov Trenin, forward-checking beast for Nashville, got traded to Colorado. Obviously, came up short. You know, another guy who, like, you look at him, good player, real good player. Evolving Hockey has him at his next contract, 4 years, $3.3 million.
Prices are pretty inflated this offseason, but
Yeah.
there's also a lot out there. I feel like there'd be one signing, like once one of the big dogs go and they get a contract and they get paid, that might set the market.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Someone's going to come in and set the market, and it's just going to be
The Sabres are going to be the ones who do that. They're going
I
to
mean,
overpay for a guy, and they're going to set the market.
I mean, we'll talk about it. Like the right-handed market is going to be disgusting this year. Like the right-handed defenseman market, it's going to be insane.
Not enough guys to go around.
No,
Montour. Who else right now?
Matt Roy, Brett
Matt
Pesce,
Roy,
Chris
Brett Pesce.
Tanev if he hits free agency, Dylan
Chris
DeMello, like
Tanev.
so many good names.
I think the best course of action for the Sabres this offseason, get one of those right-handed defensemen, try and get one of those top six guys. Right there, you're probably spending a
You're
little
spending
more
over
than half.
You're spending
Oh, you're
over
spending
10,
you're
12
spending over
million dollars.
Yes, you are right there. But you have $24 million to work with. So
Which is
there's
fine.
that.
It's just like this goes into what I was tweeting about earlier. Like you can do that. This bottom's like I think there's a little tug of war. Like you're not going to be able to spread out your chips evenly. I think
No.
something is I don't have to say something's going to get ignored. Something's not going to be as refined as it could in service of another thing. I think it could be the bottom six. I think you get one addition here, maybe, one new face. And then your only other addition is a Yuri Kulik or an Isaac Rosen or maybe a Matt Savoy. I think a guy like, I'm just looking at the list of names here. Like, I guess maybe Sam Lafferty, but even then, he was good for Vancouver. He might get a decent payday.
How much do you think Dakota Joshua is going to get?
Oh, he's getting in the fours because he was like the playoff guy this year.
What
He's
term though?
Probably 3,
Like
4 years. Like
4
he's
years.
gonna be like Ilya Mikheyev that 1 year, just getting a big payday, or I don't know. Somebody's gonna dish out money for him. He's like the dream guy, but he popped off this playoffs.
Well, I think the good thing is it's like I guess you can kind of I'm not saying to ignore the bottom six, but I'm saying the defenseman and that top guy, that big dog, those are the two things, and the UPL extension.
And
You got
third
three.
line center.
Well,
Or third line center / like they're kind of interchangeable from the sounds of things, but
okay,
you're talking two additions to the forward group
right,
in the
but
top nine.
so the third line center, I'd probably try and pay the least for. But the good thing is, you got a big prospect pool. Now's the time. Call up a guy, and well, if you add someone to the top six, you already got your top nine guys because you got seven up there with you got Paterka, Thompson, Tuck, and then you got Benson, Cousins, Quinn. You got Skinner and Greenway. That's 8 guys. You get a big dog. There's your top 9, and you bump Krebs down. He's the 10th guy. You call up a Yuri Kulik or a Matt Savoy, and then you add another guy maybe to play center because you
Did you
could
throw
maybe
Greenway in that group?
in what, like the bottom 6?
Well, did you throw him with the top 9?
Yeah,
Oh, you did.
I
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
So, well, he can move down. I was just saying, like a 9 guys that you have on the roster that are going to be around next year. You can move him down. You call a guy up, and if he's struggling, you could always send him down, call another guy up. But then you got that You can move Krebs to the wing just in case,
You're spinning in circles here. The point
hold
is,
on.
like,
You move
this
Krebs
is
to the you move Krebs to the wing in case he is struggling, and then you got your bottom line center guy you're bringing in as like a role player. And then you got your defenseman figured out and your goalies, and we win the Stanley Cup. And thank you for listening to the Sabre Roundtable.
you lost me a little bit along the way there, but it there's a lot of talk about what they're going to add. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to get everything. They're going to get a lot. Like I think it's, we're going to talk about it. Like I think this
I
draft pick
hope
is
so.
being. I think this draft pick is going to be moved. There's going to be so many moving pieces, so many additions. I just think something doesn't get fully fleshed out so that resources could be placed on another thing. Hey, maybe the defenseman isn't what they get. Maybe they'd rock a top
Yeah.
four of Dahlin, Power, Byram, Samuelson, and then add one guy to the bottom pair, like an Eric Gustafsson or someone. It's going to be interesting. Adams has a lot he has a lot on his plate, a lot going on. It's going to be interesting. For the bottom six, it's not going to be it's not going to be one of those names. It's might be a Matthias Janmark or a Thomas Nosek. It's going to be a name that isn't very. It's not very sexy. It doesn't get you excited to watch the fourth line. It's just going to be a guy. But hey, a guy is just what they need.
Yeah. Because, hey, if it's a cheap guy and it doesn't work out, you can wash your hands of it and you can call a guy up.
So when I look at this free agent class, I think, my favorites, I think Toffoli's my top guy. Top guy who's also realistic. I guess I throw Patrick Kane right behind him. I guess that
How
hurts.
much Jonah
It
has
hurts a
flipped,
little
man. He's got to put the ego aside.
I mean, well, look, I'd put Sam Reinhart first, but it's not gonna happen.
No, it's not
But I
happening,
think
but he's first.
I think Toffoli and Kane are like your big fish guys that I think you're okay to throw short-term money at. Less so in Kane's case, but I really trust Toffoli. And I think those could be your big acquisitions. And when you look at the bottom six, I brought up the names: Matthias Janmark or Thomas Nosek or Craig Smith, who was on Dallas's fourth line this year. It could be. It's going to be. I think there's a real possibility. It could be someone that you just kind of shrug your shoulders when you see the Sabres tweet it out.
Yeah, it'll be funny too. It'll be the first guy they go and it'll be the first signing of the offseason. It'll be this guy, and everyone's going to throw their arms and be like, "Oh, here we go."
That's what
Already.
that's what made like the Taylor Hall. That's what made all of that almost better, or like what got you excited because like the lead up to that was like we just signed Zemgus Girgensons for 3 years at $2.5 million in a COVID cap when players of his caliber are taking like league minimum. And did we just sign Cody Eakin for multiple seasons? Oh my God, Taylor Hall! We got Taylor Hall. We're making the playoffs.
And then everyone forgot about that.
The follow-up signing, it's like, oh, Matt Irwin, cool.
Matt Irwin. I want to forget those years so badly.
All right, so I did want to talk a little bit about the 11th overall pick. So as we alluded to, I think it's on the move. I think it's going to get traded. Now, I could be wrong. It could be just normal insiders drumming up excitement. I'm hearing there's tons. It is a yearly cycle where they're like, wow, like the NHL has never been busier before. GMs are talking. There's going to be so many trades. I don't think I've ever seen this before. And then nothing happens. You have a year like last year where there were 0 trades at the NHL draft in the first round for like the first time in, what was it, since 2007 in like 15 years. But I think there's real smoke here. I think especially in the Sabres case, given where their prospect pool is at, yeah, it makes sense that they're talking about a trade with this pick. Now, let's just jump right into it. All of Elliot Friedman, Jeff Merrick, and Corey Pronman have all talked about this pick possibly being in play, and Friedman and Merrick have done so pretty continuously over the last week. And also brought up that the top 6 addition, it feels like if they're going to move that 11th overall pick, it's going to be for that top 6 forward. They also did mention, I think it was Friedman brought up a funny scenario where that they're also willing to take, trade back, get more draft picks. And look, I
Everyone
don't,
would freak out.
this is a good draft class, really good. And it's a good one to trade back in if they wanted to. I could only imagine the reaction, man. I could
Oh my
only imagine the
God.
reaction. Just like
People would not be happy.
the Buffalo Sabres have traded the 11th overall pick to, I don't know, insert like the Edmonton Oilers, and they get picks such and such back. It would just be so funny. It would be so funny. It'd be so chaotic.
Yeah, my opinion on this is I think the Sabres are going to make this pick. I don't know. I think the staff really values their draft picks more than other organizations do, and that's a good thing. It's a frustrating thing when you want pieces that'll help you now, but I I love the long-term vision that they've always stuck by, and they're trying to set this organization up for long-term success. Um, so I'm gonna say that they're gonna make this pick. There's gonna be smoke. There's gonna be possibly fire leading up to the draft, and then in true draft fashion, whether it be the NFL draft, NHL draft, whatever, all this speculation, and when the draft goes, it's just like silence, and the picks just get made, and we're like scratching our heads as to like what was all these rumors going on about like us trading the pick to move up, and this team possibly moving this guy, and a 3-team trade fell through. I think it's going to be another one of those years where they make the pick, and then they're just going to go into the off season, and they're going to go right along, and hopefully they make some big additions.
Hey, and I'm not opposed to them keeping the pick. It's a good draft class, and they're in a spot where, look, they had the 11th overall pick. That's not low. That's the 11th overall, and this draft class is good, and it offers, there's a real possibility that they're going to have a chance to draft a good defenseman, which we know they need to restock. It's not a pressing issue, but there could be a guy, whether it's Perek or if Yamachuk drops. There's scenarios where it could happen, and obviously I'm praying that Berkeley Catton falls, but I do think that because of where they stand at 11th overall, and maybe there's interest from other teams on the floor, this could be a draft floor trade. Maybe
What
we
a
do wait
name.
until then.
Berkeley Catton. It's a hell of a
He's
name.
a stud, man. I love him. I think teams have learned their lesson, though. I mean, he scored 54 goals this year, and he's a center. I don't know if he drops that far again. I don't know if he's another late drop.
Not like a Zach Benson drop.
No. I don't know. The Demidov drop. Now that's something. I don't know. Maybe the Sabre, if Demidov drops to 5, should we trade up? I'm sure people would love the discourse around.
Oh, God.
I don't know what's funnier. What's funnier? They trade back or they trade up?
I think definitely trading back is definitely funnier, but also trading up, it's just more of a head scratcher. It's just like, okay, like if you're looking to move like future capital down the road, like I understand, but trading back would just I'd be laughing. That'd be hilarious.
I think people could get on board with like a Demidov trade up, but if it's for like someone random, like they move from like 11th to 8th, and people are just like what the hell was the point of that?
Literally no point at all. They
get their guy.
They move the comp pick they got from the Asplin trade to move up 3 spots.
God, I hope something amazing or something funny happens.
This organization is known for both of those.
Yes.
And amazing is usually not in a good way.
All right, but that's where we're at with the 11th overall pick. A ton of smoke surrounding it. I think it could go either way, whether or not it's trade. I think it's 50-50, which is a lot higher than I would have said a week ago. All right, moving on. The Sabres did have some additions to their organization. So as we know, because Seth Appert joined the Sabres coaching staff, the Amerks need a new head coach, and they have found their guy. Mike Leone is the 34th head coach in the 68-year history of the Rochester Americans. Another National Development Program guy.
They love the National Development Program.
Yes.
I don't really know much about the guy, so
Yeah, I don't know much about him too. It says here in the press release, 66, 41, 10 and 7 record in his 2 seasons with Green Bay in the USHL. Back-to-back 30-plus win seasons, consecutive playoff appearances for the first time in over a decade with them. He seems like this seems like a solid hire. Like I said, I'm not gonna pretend to know too much about him, but from what a lot of people have been saying, this guy kind of fits the mold to what they're looking for, and he's coming into quite the crop of young talent coming in. You're gonna have, barring trades, but you could have both of Rosén and Kulik in the AHL, or at least one of them. Savoy's coming over, Osland maybe. Wahlberg's gonna have his first season in the AHL. It's a good group of talent. Should be fun. Should be fun to watch the Amerks. Interested to see how Leone does.
yeah, I'm interested too. It seems like this was more of an in-depth coaching search than the NHL job was, but
What did Carmano say? He interviewed
like 25 guys, and 5 of them were finalists.
Yeah, he got phone calls from like 100 different coaches. He was flexing the numbers. He was like, "This was an in-depth search. I promise. I promise." Another addition today, though, Chris Bergeron hired as a college scout. So I did go back and check. They did make one addition to their scouting staff last year, but before then, a lot of their additions were made before the 2021-2022 season. So, look, hey, this scouting staff can always
use another guy.
Could always use another guy, another set of eyes. And, the Sabres really haven't done a ton with the NCAA in recent years, especially with free agents in that field. Obviously, you had Ryan Johnson and Owen Power, but I don't really think there was any other notable college guys to sign with the team. There was one 2 seasons ago. He joined the Amerks late. Oh, what was his name? Oh, it's killing me. He joined them for the playoffs. This is gonna make me go down a rabbit hole. What was his name?
Arttu Ruotsalainen?
Not Ruotsalainen. It was started with a J. Oh, what was his name?
What year was it?
This was 2022, 2023.
And where was he coming from?
Came from the NCAA. He came from I don't even remember the team. It was a green team. Might have been
North Dakota State.
I might have. Is that where Besser played?
I don't know. Starts with a J. His last name starts with a J?
Yeah, this is embarrassing.
Jobst?
No, it wasn't Jobst. It was not him. It was a defenseman. It was. I want to say it wasn't Janik. It wasn't like Doug Janik.
It's not Doug Janik. We talked about Doug Janik too many times on this podcast.
But it is similar. I found the name. Chris Jandrick.
Jandrick.
Yes, and he went to North Dakota.
I got the school.
Yes.
Green team, easy bet.
Yes. So he was I want to say he was the last college signing they had who went undrafted.
Interesting.
So I think he signed a 2-year contract, so he must have played for I don't remember really seeing much about him this season. But yeah. So I think that was like the last undrafted college signing they made. So wonder if he got some time in the ECHL. So yeah, another set of eyes in the on the scouting staff.
Always welcome, especially with the rumors of the NHL draft going to 4 rounds.
Which we can get into. So let's hop around the NHL a bit. And we can start with that. Friedman talking a little bit about on 32 Thoughts how the NHL draft might be shortened to 4 rounds possibly. That might be a proposal on the next CBA.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. Have your staff that you built up go out and, find guys. Um, Once you get past round 3, 4 anyway, it turns into more of a crapshoot. So it's more of a formality thing.
Yeah.
You just get a player's rights, but like
And half the time, those rights,
they
you know,
expire.
something that I should also brought up, the Sabres did let a crop of prospects go, including Mats Lindgren.
Hmm.
These are guys that their rights belong to the Sabres for a few seasons, and they didn't end up getting signed. I think in Lindgren's case, it's a bit different because he was more high profile. I mean, wasn't he drafted in the fourth round? I
Yeah,
want
it was
to.
it was a mid-round pick.
He was drafted fourth round, so
What year?
different. 2022. So like a bit
Mm.
different in his case. He's up there in the fourth round, but a lot of other players like you get drafted in the seventh round and your rights belong to a team for a few years, and you know they're hardly thinking about you. So
Right.
it's kind of I wouldn't mind it. It would you'd see a lot more player movement. At the same time, I do worry about it a bit because it could turn into like a New York Yankees in the 1960s situation where there's no MLB draft. So they're just signing every single top prospect because everyone wants to play for the Yankees.
W organization.
I guess you do kind of worry about that, but I think the NHL is different. Plus
Hmm.
it's late round picks. This isn't like that Yankee scenario where there's no draft, so anybody
Right.
can sign, including the top guys. It'd be interesting. I think it's a good proposal. I think I'm for it.
Me too.
All right, the Stanley Cup Final in full swing. The Florida Panthers, Edmonton Oilers. They're actually tied 1-1 going into the third period. Florida won Game 1 off the back of an insane performance by Sergei Bobrovsky. He's back
The
on the case.
Bob.
I guess it's kind of unfair now, but predictions for the series.
I think the Panthers are going to take it 4-2.
Ah, it's because they won Game 1, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no. I think they're the better team. I think the Panthers are the better all-around team. I think the Oilers have they're a top-heavy team. I think they have bigger, stronger horses in the top six, but they don't have the depth. Like they're rotating through like right now, like they just scratched Cody Cece. Janmark is back in the lineup. Evander Kane is out of the lineup. They just can't seem to find any rhythm with that bottom six. Um, I don't know if Fogel is here and there. They got Philip Broberg in on defense. Like, are you that down bad right now? Um, but I think the Panthers are just the structure of the roster.
Yeah, I
It
think, and
makes me feel more comfortable.
I also think, people were talking up Dallas as maybe the team that could shut McDavid down because you have Heiskanen and Tanev on him, and I think the Panthers are like the final stage of like if anybody can shut him down, it's them because you have Barkov,
Hmm.
and don't forget about Sam Reinhart who came
Yep.
in second in first place Selke voting. And you saw that last game where, look, Panthers or the Oilers played great, and McDavid's line was all over the ice, but they contained him. They didn't,
Yep.
and they scored the first goal. Carter Verhaeghe. McDavid was on the ice, and it was all started by a Barkov rush. I do think if I said this, I think I said Dallas was. I think I said they were the only team that could maybe beat them, and I think Florida might be the only other team that really can beat them because
Hmm.
they are deep and
Yeah, they're very deep. And also Darnell Nurse has been struggling. Stuart Skinner's hot and cold.
yep,
It's like,
they have the goaltending edge.
hmm.
It is kind of a unstoppable force versus an immovable object between Florida's power play and Edmonton's penalty kill. So that's kind of a standoff there. But you also have Matt Kachuk. He's on the second line for
Yep.
Florida. He's not even playing with Barkov. He's going to break out one of these games. I think he's been quiet so far, but
Hmm.
I don't know, man. They're just so good. It's such a well built team.
Bill Zito's did a good job.
He's That's just an amazingly built roster. Jim Nill was just announced as the GM of the year this season, and obviously he's a fantastic GM. I think this was Zito's award this year.
Mm.
Because a lot of last year was, they were a Cinderella team last year. This year they were the best team in the East. And I think
by far
that's just giving props to him. So we shall see. I think Florida, if they win tonight, I think they might wrap this up in 5. This probably still goes 6 or 7. This is just a battle of 2 heavyweights.
Oh yeah.
All right, moving on here. With the New York Rangers season wrapped up, all eyes turned to Igor Shesterkin, who obviously had a pretty sensational playoff run with the Rangers. Once again, the Rangers letting down their star-studded goalie in typical Rangers fashion. So he becomes eligible for an extension on July 1st. He's making $5.6 million through next season, but obviously they want to get ahead of things now. He might get $12 million on his next deal.
How much did Connor Hellebuck get? 8?
Wasn't he? He's in the 8s. Didn't him and Scheifele both get like matching 8.5s?
12 million, man, for a goalie.
I
could argue that goaltending is possibly the most important position on the ice.
Like I know
It's just
Bobrovsky,
so hot and cold.
I know Bobrovsky, has had his return to form these last 2 years, but dude, everybody was clowning on that deal for a good 3 seasons.
Yeah, he had not lived up to that contract for a long time.
Carey Price too, with his big payday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I get it. Like, it's Igor, and he had a great playoffs, but he also wasn't the better goalie for half this season.
Do the Rangers even have, how much cap space do they have?
Heading into this offseason, they have $11 million. And like I said, they don't have to, this deal doesn't kick in till the following season.
Right. They think they get it done early because, if they wait and he has another good season, then it's just
Plus
gonna get
Lafreniere
worse.
is eligible for an extension as well.
Capo Caco, untouchable.
I wouldn't mind him in Buffalo. I really wouldn't.
You throw him on the 4th line, sure. I'll sign him to a league minimum deal.
It's a far cry from what he could have gotten a few years ago, but
Oh yeah.
It's a crazy amount of money to a goalie. I just don't know if I could ever, like, Levi could be the best goalie in the NHL, and if he got over 10, I'd be like, man, like, that's a lot. It's a lot for a volatile position.
How much do you think Connor McDavid is going to get his next extension?
Oh my God. I mean, I think the cap's about to shoot up. Does he get close to 20?
It's got to be, right?
Does he hit 20? Is he the first guy to hit $20 million?
He's not getting anything under 16.
It depends on the cap. And look, you're seeing this year because the cap recently got finalized to $88 million. That was what, 300 more K than they predicted? And in large part, it's due to a team like the Oilers going deep. Imagine, like, let's say, hypothetically, nightmare scenario here, Toronto wins the Stanley Cup. But just, and then you wake up, but you imagine the amount of money that they would be reeling in, even if they just got to, like, the conference finals. If that happens over the next few years, I mean, when's McDavid up? He's up in 2 seasons. I mean, I think they said it's going to take a $5 million jump next offseason. And then who knows? What if it takes another $5 million? I mean, $12.5 million, even back in 2017, people were talking about that. He took a discount.
You think? Yeah.
He could have easily gotten 13, 14.
Man, he's gonna get paid. He's gonna get 20 million.
I don't know. I don't know if he hits 20. I think he's gonna get close. I think he's going to get real close.
Yeah, but like,
it's going to be
a team like
stupid. Imagine, okay, I don't think he hits 20 if he stays with the Oilers. if he hits free agency,
Oh, someone's gonna overpay for him,
someone, because
dude.
imagine in 2 years,
The bidding war.
and imagine in 2 years, you're gonna have expansion teams, maybe one expansion team, possibly. Could you imagine you're a startup franchise? Like you're Houston. You just throw all the money at McDavid. All
That'd
of
be
it.
sick.
Sign him like a $25 million contract. It'd be ridiculous.
Oh.
20 million dollars. That's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be. I hope he hits free agency. Just an all-out bidding war. Oh, it'd be so fun.
Every
It'd be
team
so funny. He'd meet with that. How many teams would he meet with? All
everyone.
of them. All of them. Fun to think about. Sort of staying on the topic of free agents, who's staying, who's not staying. The Toronto Maple Leafs. Are they not gonna trade anyone out of the core four?
I feel like every year they have the same stupid discussion. Like, and I think it pisses me off too because it's like they all get so upset about like, I remember one of Steve Dangle's last videos. He was talking about like if they lose this game 7 and he was so serious about it. He's like, they're firing the president. Nope, they didn't fire the president. They're going to keep him around because they brought in a new CEO and he doesn't know what's going on yet.
And he
'cause
just
he
got
was only
there.
there. He just got there. So they're keeping him around. And now it's looking more and more like the Marner stuff, it seemed to all die down. It seems like everyone in Toronto has kind of forgotten about it already. Like
And Tavares doesn't want to go anywhere.
Tavares doesn't want to go anywhere. Are they just
He
going to
doesn't
roll
have
in the
to.
next season with the core again?
Like, I mean, if you keep Tavares around with Matthews and Nylander, like fine. If you keep Marner, what are you doing? That's just an insane cloud just hanging over the team. You head into training camp with that narrative, like you have this guy, contract negotiations don't go well with his camp. You might lose this guy for nothing.
Right. They could easily lose him for nothing, which is why it'd be smart of them to part with him now. But again, it just seems like the chatter's already died down. I haven't heard
Yeah, and the
much.
rumor
It could
is
heat up quick again,
and the
but
rumor is they're nervous that it turns into another Nazem Kadri situation where he thrives in a smaller market. It's like, look, Kadri was good in Colorado. He was great, and he was instrumental to that cup win. He was still Nazem Kadri.
right.
Like, he had that one insane season. He did. He had one insane season. And then he went to Calgary, and he got overpaid, and he started underperforming. Like, what are you so afraid of? It doesn't work. I think I'm preaching to the choir of Leaf fans. It doesn't work. Why? You got to get rid of one of them. You got to
Right.
get rid of one of them.
For something. I don't know. I look at Toronto's, it's weird. The organization is weird. They're not a typical NHL organization, obviously. Like I look at them more as it's more of a business. Like obviously I don't get me wrong, they have great fans, they have hardcore fans, but there's this weird yin and yang with them where it's like the hardcore fans have to walk through this red tape of corporations and business executives buying up all their good tickets and they're relegated to the upper bowl and they're like a money printing machine. But the problem is it's like I think they see this the core four, it's been, it has been a moneymaker, but they just haven't gotten it done in the playoffs, which has definitely it's not been favorable to the fans because the fans don't care about the organization making money. But the organization making money
They
is
shouldn't.
about right,
Who
exactly.
the hell
But
cares?
MLE or whatever they are, what are they? MLSE,
MLSC. Yeah.
MLSE. All they care about their bottom line, and that core four has brought them a lot of revenue over the past few years with all the regular season success they've had. So you kind of think about it. It's like as a fan, you want to part with Mitch Marner, right? Because you want to get some value. You want to try and, bring a winner to the city. And I'm not saying that MLSE doesn't value winning in the playoffs. I think they do, but I think they value their bottom line more. So if they could have another great
Guess
regular
what?
season,
Your bottom
and
if you go
make a
deeper
run,
if you go deeper in the playoffs, your bottom line improves.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It must be just
You,
so incredibly frustrating. Like, could you? I still think, I
it's a
still
weird
think,
organization.
I still think Marner gets moves. Like, I just feel like he has to. But if he doesn't, and they go into next season, like, just what are you doing? Like, how can you watch that last playoff series? Matthews was out, Nylander was hurt. Like, it was on. Like, this was almost like a last hurrah, a last chance for Marner and Tavares, and they scored what, a combined 2 goals. Tavares had
Yeah,
2 points.
Domi and Bertuzzi, I think, outscored both of them.
I think Nyes did too. Like, I don't know. Like
Eleven
like
point
I
nine
said,
million dollars.
I just don't think Marner stays. I just don't think he can. Tavares, if he stays, oh well. You know, it is what it is. But you can't go in with Marner. You just can't. You can't do it. Joe Pavelski sounds like he's hanging up the skates. Captain America.
Rest
He's
in peace,
calling it
Captain
quits.
America.
What a great career.
Sucks, man. I wish he could have gotten into the Cup final this year.
Dude, you look at that Sharks, like the old Sharks core, like Marlowe,
They're so
Thornton.
good. They were
So good.
nasty.
I don't think any of them won a cup eventually.
Marlowe didn't.
Thornton
Thornton
didn't.
didn't. Couture has not.
Pavelski isn't.
Pavelski, no. Who else was on that team? Was Wayne Simmons on that team?
No, I don't think so. Burns hasn't won a cup.
Oh, Brent Burns. Yeah.
I guess he like
Uh,
even going like further back. Like it's just I don't think any of them won a cup. Like Barclay Goodrow, Game 7 hero. I guess he won. He won one.
with Tampa, right?
Tampa. Yeah, Tampa. But
Who else? Tomas Hurdle. He hasn't won one yet, right?
no.
Who's the other guy? Um, Not Tomas Hurdle, but who's the other? This is killing me. There's another forward, like a power forward that
Meyer?
Timo Meyer. Yeah.
Yeah. He's more on the recent side of things, but yeah. It I don't know. I guess it's kind of a good and a bad thing. Like, it sucks. You see every Sabres player. I mean, if Florida wins the cup, you're gonna have like 5 former Sabres, 3 of which being like integral to the team lifting the cup. But at the same time, it's like you want to see Thornton get one, you want to see Pavelski get one, you want to see Marlowe get one. It's just 3 tremendous players didn't get to
Uh,
hoist it.
there was, oh my God, there's a ton of former the 07-08 Sharks. There's a ton of former Sabres on this team. Brian
Oh,
Campbell,
that's right. Campbell got
Craig
traded there.
Rivet,
I
Christian
guess Campbell
Ehrhoff,
counts.
Mike
He won a
Greer.
cup.
Yeah, he well with
But
Chicago,
I'm talking
but
about like the core, you know?
yeah, yeah. Torrey Mitchell, Sabres legend. Oh, JR was on that team. He never won a cup. Like, would you consider him part of the core though?
No, I wouldn't. But
Mm.
still a good player, obviously. I think it's interesting to see a team like seriously, like they dominated the Western Conference for so many years. And even though they came up short so many times, like even their players that eventually left just never had that moment. Crazy. Pavelski is the latest example of which sucks.
Didn't
Sayonara,
Marlowe
sayonara, Captain America.
Sayonara? Didn't Marlowe play like the most games in NHL history? Like
I
regular season
I
games?
think that's why they kept trotting out his corpse. Yeah.
And he never won a cup. That's crazy. Yeah, it just doesn't work out sometimes.
Oh well. All right, we're down to the final 6 names for the Utah hockey team: the Utah Blizzard, the Utah Mammoth, the Utah Outlaws, the Utah Venom, the Utah Yeti, and the Utah Hockey Club. There's no way people voted for Hockey Club. I refuse to believe it. There's no way. Who's voting for that?
Such a weak name. Don't do that.
It's not even a name. It's just a it's just a noun. It's
That's
just
how
what they are.
that's what they'll be this season. But just don't go with that long term. What are we doing? Be a little creative.
Well,
I
you know my vote. I'm all in on the Mammoth.
I personally I saw a mock-up of the Venom with like a nice like a baby blue with a red. It looks sick. I'd love that kind of jersey, but my favorite name is the Utah Yeti. It just I don't know, it flows well. I like Utah Yeti.
Yeah, it's got a nice what you call it? What do you call it?
It's not alliteration because it's two
No,
different letters,
it's
but
close though.
it's close.
I mean, I feel like is it? That's got to be alliteration.
It's
You and
so
Ye.
close.
Yeah,
It's so close to alliteration.
I don't know. Blizzard Outlaw. I guess I wouldn't mind Outlaws. There's some cool like cowboy things they could do with that, but
Hmm.
not too hot on the Blizzard. That's kind of boring. Hockey Club, obviously, awful.
Storm and Mormons,
The Super Soakers.
the Super Soakers.
I'm all in on the Mammoth. Christian likes Yeti the best. It like I said, as long as it's not the Blizzard or Hockey Club, I think I'm happy.
Hmm.
And in our final bit of branding news, we have some jersey rebrands on the way, and they're much needed. The LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks will both be receiving rebrands for next season. The LA Kings, it is supposedly going to be, well, the logos, that is, a modernized version of the Gretzky era logo in black and silver with a new crown design inside. As for the Ducks, it's a modernized version of the Mighty Ducks logo in orange, black, and gold. This is via Aesthetics.
So they're not changing any colors. They're just updating the logos and the jerseys a little bit.
Sounds like it. Although the Ducks, I don't think they had switched to the orange full time.
The Kings need to bring back the gold and the purple. Like I even liked the purple and the white back in the 2000s when they had like the big crown and it was like the purple. I like that better than the black and white.
I guess. I don't know. I've never been too hot on some base colors just don't work for me. Like yellow, I don't think is a good base color. Black, I think can be really boring. Um, I think purple sort of fits into that group, but I did like the reverse retros.
I love the reverse
I think it was
retros.
just a bit too much purple, but I think it's a good third.
Mm.
I don't know. I think maybe if they like worked a purple accent into it, I don't know. I think black and silver. I know I just said black is kind of boring, but I think it works for the Kings. Um, I don't know.
The the Ducks one's well overdue.
It's overdue. I mean, it was so simple. Just switch back to the reverse retros, and it's a good mix of the orange and the old Mighty Ducks logo. But
But it might not even be the Mighty Ducks logo. They said it's a modernized version, right?
yeah, yeah, they did say it was modernized, so it's interesting. It's long overdue, especially for the Ducks. They needed to get out from the webbed foot, which
Yeah.
I never hated. It just
Yeah,
wasn't. It wasn't primary material.
I think it got too much hate. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, this thing is so trash." I think it's a lot of it was just like the old logo was so good.
Yeah,
Um, I never hated it. I thought it was kind of cool because it kind of like a D, but it was also a Doug's
yeah.
web foot.
I
It's a
don't.
good shoulder patch.
I don't think it's a bad logo. I just think the jerseys didn't do it any favors.
No, like the colors in the jersey and the striping
The pipe,
styles were
yeah, the
terrible,
piping, and
terrible.
yeah,
The
very.
Capitals need to rebrand
How do
ASAP
they
too.
still have that template? How?
So bad,
I don't know.
terrible.
I think they're just hanging on with it until Ovi retires.
And then
As soon as he retires, they'll do a nice rebrand.
yeah, though that it's like the Reebok template.
Yeah,
They like never
so they
updated
never
from
updated it.
Adidas.
Never.
It's gross. It's like the Arizona Cardinals had the Reeboks for like the longest time after
Hmm.
like everyone had changed. They had the weird like black stripes with the weird side pants and so I'm like, when are you fixing this? And then like what was it, 2 years ago they finally changed it. Like, thank God.
Yeah. Yep. Fun stuff. Dallas needs a big rebrand too.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the green. Like I get
I don't
victory
know if
green.
I don't know if there's a better green. I just think
It's
their
just a
logo.
darker green.
I think
Darker
their
green.
logo is bland as hell. It's just a D and a star.
Yeah.
That's
But
all it
what
is.
else would you do though?
Well, I don't know. I would just make the logo more stylized. It's just very bland. I don't know.
It is. I would say the maybe it's the way like the light hits the green jerseys. They just look too light. They look like a really like a
It's the
neon.
way it looks when the lights are turned on.
Yeah, they said the lights are too bright. Turn them down. I like the Stars old jerseys, like their 90s jerseys, when they played the Sabres in the Cup final. Those were cool. I like the stripe design. They're so creative back then, with like the different, sometimes they had gradient fades like the Sabres, they have like the triangle with the stripe with like the almost like the buffalo horns coming out the sides. The Stars had like it was a literal star going around the entire jersey. That's sick. Like go back to that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you know me. Like I just want to be done with like nostalgia and like old rebrands. Like I know the Kings and the Ducks are doing modernized looks. I think the Ducks are an exception. Like should never have gone away from the Mighty Ducks logo. I think the Kings I would have liked something new, but whatever. I'm sick of like throwbacks becoming uh, just the normal home and away jerseys. And look, I know the Sabres are like that. That's what they did. I'm not the biggest. I'm not. I should say I'm not the biggest fan. Like I think their aways are like the best in the league. I think their homes are kind of bland. Like I thought they could have done more with them. And I think even the aways. I think it could have used at the very least like a shoulder patch. I think the home jerseys could have done
Yeah.
more with the shoulder piping. I think there was more ways to make it look new and fresh. Besides, I mean, they literally just went back to the '70s and '80s jerseys.
Without the buffalo shoulder
Yeah,
patches and everything.
without the shoulder patches. So they just did the '70s jerseys.
I think shoulder patches would have been nice. Even if it was like the bee with the sword in it, it would have been like
Yeah,
almost
or
like
the
a
charging
cool,
buffalo.
yeah, even that. Like, yeah, because they don't have it on the helmet anymore. I wish they still did.
Yeah, I think
Those
they
are
have it on
so
the. I think they have
nice.
it on the pants. I think that's where they have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like I'm sick of it. Like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like other teams that have gone back and it's just super boring. I don't know. Like if I don't know New Jersey, I feel like they all just want to go back to the '90s jerseys. Like I don't know. Like can I see something new? Or
Yeah.
the Capitals are doing. The Capitals are doing new throwbacks like just like every other year. It's like give them a fresh rebrand. Do something new,
Something
please.
new.
Please. I don't know. It's always fun. I always love talking jerseys.
Always good to talk jerseys.
I can give you an update though. Evan Rodriguez has
I saw
scored the go-ahead goal for the Panthers.
King Erod.
Ah man, he just another silent
Never
victim.
disappointed.
Another
He's never
silent victim
disappointed.
of Kruger.
Yep.
Like Darlene, Skinner, those guys, they get the credit for who suffered the most. Like I'm not saying it was wrong, but Rodriguez, Montour,
Montour.
I don't know who else. Such a friggin' long list of names. You can
Just
probably
put
throw.
everyone on the list.
I'll speak for JP. You could probably throw Pilot in there. Just God, what a
Set that
waste.
organization back a while, man.
What a waste. Who knows if it would have ever worked out? But a lot of years of suffering could have been avoided.
It's in the past.
Yeah, yes, it is. Oh well. Good for Evan. All right. This was a long one.
Yeah.
Good talk, good conversation, talking about the free agents,
Good
some other Sabres
stuff.
topics, NHL topics. We are 18 days away from the NHL draft. And I just
Could see
found
it
out
that game.
it's on a Friday.
Finally.
I
It's
know.
like
Wasn't
never coming
wasn't
into a
it-
weekend.
it a Thursday last year? It was like a midweek. I don't know.
I don't know.
I just remember because I was up editing till like 3 a.m. our 3 or 4 hour long podcast reacting to each and every pick, which I think we're going to do again.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So I think that's going to do it for this one. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at the Sabre Report. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Sabre Report. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want updates for the pod, follow us on Twitter at Sabre Report Pod. Go give our friends over at the Buffalo Sports Talk podcast a listen. I think for our next episode, I do have something planned for later in the week that's going to celebrate a certain anniversary. You guys will see that this weekend. I want to get JP back for that one. because I just know all of you guys out there missed him so much this time around. We miss him too. So stay tuned for that. And then I think next week we'll discuss some of the defensive free agents, and after that, I think it's draft week. So I think we're gonna do a little draft preview. I don't know. We'll see. Should be fun. The off season is about to begin, my friend. We're getting there.
It's such a long off season.
So, thank you very much for listening. Feel free to leave a review. We'll see you guys next time. Go Sabres.
Go Sabres.